So specifically what we're talking about today is emotional brain training for sustainable weight loss. And, when I say sustainable weight loss, what I really mean is lasting health outcomes. It doesn't matter if your outcome is lowering blood sugar or losing weight. When it comes down to it, what we're talking about is living this low insulin, low inflammation lifestyle. And emotional brain training simply allows us to do that more effectively with less effort, with less white knuckling. So it's very fun content to share with you. It's been life-changing for me, life-changing for our members. It's just awesome. Okay, so here's my lovely family. I am married to a farmer. We are in Nebraska. We have 3 kids. Dawson is 7, Leah is 5, and Logan is 8 months. So we are kind of in a really fun rush hour season of life. By trade, I'm a geriatric physical therapist, and so that means I'm specialized in geriatrics. I saw a lot of end-stage disease related to insulin resistance, like diabetes, heart disease, dementia, some osteoarthritis, certain types of cancer. And I was just, heartbroken. And so I started my own business to try to help people like 20 to 30 years earlier than that so that they didn't need a geriatric PT down the road and they had a higher quality of life and more independence and more resources to spend being time, money, and energy to do the things that they need, want, and love to do. So that's why I started Zibly. And I just want to learn a little bit more about you. So you might have answered this in the boot camp already, but definitely type in the chat 1, 2, or 3. So I want to know, what do you relate with more? We're talking about both the strategy and the mindset side of getting healthy today. So I need to know, like, where are you at so that I can kind of tailor this presentation to you. Uh, Number one, I don't know what to do, meaning I want to lose weight or I want to lower my blood sugars or I want to get healthy, but I'm not quite sure I'm doing the right things because there's so much conflicting and confusing information online and it's just too much. And I don't know if I'm doing it right. Okay. Number two, I can't do what I know consistently, meaning I know some stuff. I know I should be exercising. I know I should go to bed earlier. I know that I should be eating more protein. I'm just not doing it. I can't be consistent. One of our members said she couldn't follow a diet for a whole day. And we get so many of our Zibly members who feel like they've literally tried everything. So that could be you, where I know some stuff, but even what I do know, I'm not doing it consistently. Or maybe you're in the number 3 camp of like, no, I need help with strategy and mindset. So I was smart and I was prepared. So I have this little laptop over here where I can monitor the chat without kind of compromising the training here. So let's look at these numbers. See, you guys are so good. I knew you would be really well engaged. And, there's 1, 3 there for both. 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2. Yeah. Good. Okay, this is perfect because I'm really not covering a lot of the strategy today. I did a lot of that in the blood sugar boot camp that is still available to watch until Friday. Today, we're really hammering home why mindset is so important for your biochemistry and for long-term change. So I would love to know, what have you already tried for mindset? So you know what to do, but you're struggling to do it consistently. So type 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. Number 1 would be cognitive behavioral therapy. So you could think of like talk therapy or psychotherapy. The other thing that I want you to think about is, how is this problem of inconsistency affecting other realms of your life? So, with emotional brain training, yes, it's going to improve your health, but it's also going to improve your relationship with yourself and your relationship with others. So, do you struggle to keep your house clean? Do you struggle to not snap at your partner or your kids? Think about other areas of your life where you know what to do, but you can't seem to do it. And if you feel like it, you can type those in the chat too. That's helpful feedback. So, number 2, prayer or spiritual counseling. Number 3, positive affirmations and auto-suggestion. This was my go-to before learning emotional brain training. And I swear to you, I did positive affirmations and auto-suggestion for years, literally years. And I did see improvements. But I did emotional brain training for 4 months and I rewired circuits in my brain that had been causing me to distance from my husband and snap during harvest and get totally burnt out that I'd done all of these things. I'd done talk therapy, I'd prayed, I'd been prayed over, spiritual counseling, I've done all of it. And EBT really, really helped me with those sticky habits where it's like, why do I keep breaking down during harvest? Why do I keep snapping at my kids? Why do I sometimes really, really want food after dinner, even though I don't need it? So I'm just kind of curious, what did you try? Because this is what I tried before EBT. Let's see. So Suzanne says 0, maybe hasn't tried anything yet. If you've tried something different than these, let me know. So yeah, 2 and 3. Yeah, 3. Yeah. It's actually kind of surprising. I don't know why. I thought maybe more people would have tried like the behavioral therapy, the cognitive behavioral therapy. Yeah, great. Okay. And then just also curious, again, this is not heavy strategy, but I am curious on what you've tried so far for strategy regarding weight loss or blood sugar control. Number 1 is medications. Number 2 is nutritionist or health coaching. Number 3, you gave it the good old college try and you tried it on your own. If you want to type in the chat what you've tried, you can. This is just helpful, honestly, for me moving forward to make future trainings so that I can speak more clearly to what you've tried, what you haven't tried, create the most helpful content that I can. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. I didn't 1, 2, 3, a lot of the threes. Yep. Weight Watchers, 3 in supplements, low carb. Yeah, indoor walking again, not consistent. Weight Watchers. Yeah. Yeah, see, like I've never even heard of the Better Diet through insurance. So what I do is I kind of look at the chat files after all the trainings and I glean as much wisdom and insight as I can so that future trainings can be tailored even more so to your concerns. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks for your responses. So today's training is focused on why some things haven't worked. And someone's like, well, I'm on a, coaching program and it's working. I want you to consider maybe past things that haven't worked, why those haven't worked, or why it feels so hard when they do. Another huge area of concern is just the amount of effort and resistance that you have to overcome to make basic healthy choices. So that's tough. We got to overcome that resistance, and EBT really helps with that. Also, whatever strategy that you do choose must keep insulin low long term for weight loss and health improvements. The other thing that it needs to do is it really needs to preserve lean muscle mass. So as you lose weight, if you're not eating enough protein, someone said they're not eating enough, and if you're not strength training, up to 50% of the weight that you lose can be coming from muscle. And when you regain that weight, if you can't stick to that diet or whatever you're trying to lose weight, that weight will come back on as fat. So now you have more fat and less muscle than when you started at that weight, which means you have a slower metabolism, which means you have to eat less to just maintain that weight than you used to. And then as we age and go through menopause, of course, our hormones change and make all of this harder. So insulin needs to stay low. Muscle mass must be protected. Those are the two things to keep in mind with whatever strategy you decide to go with. This is because insulin resistance over time will lead to more body fat, less muscle. Like your muscle tissue in and of itself can become insulin resistant. You'll see higher blood sugar. One of the first signs of insulin resistance is often high blood pressure. You're going to have more joint pain and inflammation. And what does all of that add up to? It adds up to a lower quality of life, a lower ability to engage with your loved ones, to keep up with your grandkids at the park or at the zoo, to keep up with your family on vacations. Like this is the time of life where you should be able to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it because you've been serving your loved ones, maybe working for so many years, and now it's really time to take care of you. So that's how I want you to view this phase in your life. It's time for you. Okay. But unfortunately, insulin resistance is often ignored by physicians, and women will hear, oh, you're just getting older. You just have to deal with the extra weight. I've heard doctors say, well, I like my women with a little extra weight. That way they have a little reserve if they, get hurt or if they have a fall. Lots of times they're just going to say, just watch it for now. Your blood sugars are creeping up, but just watch it. I want you to know if you've heard any of those things or something specific, like similar, what was your experience? Have you been gaslit essentially? Like, I know something's wrong with me, and they're like, oh, you're just getting older, just watch it. Then put that in the chat. And then doctors obviously love to prescribe medication. And I do believe that everybody is doing the best given their circumstances, and doctors are working in a broken system. We have a system of sick care, not health care. We are really good at treating disease, or excuse me, at treating illness and injury, but not at preventing or treating these chronic diseases related to insulin resistance. Unfortunately, that's a huge gap in our current healthcare system that Zivli is trying to help fill. Yep. Yeah, just diet and exercise. Yeah, just watch what you eat and walk more, eat less sugar and walk more. I've heard so many things like that. So they're trying, they're doing what they can to help. And unfortunately, when you have a limited amount of time in the doctor's office, uh, can I write you a medication is one solution that they often go to. Just if there's not, like, almost like, why bother? Like, why bother bringing something up if they can't help you follow through on it? They can help you follow through on a medication, but they can't help you follow through on the other stuff because that's not how the system is built. I love this graphic because it depicts what happens if you don't make the changes needed to really keep insulin resistance at bay. So in your 20s, on this side, it's you're 20 years old, then you're 30 years old, 40, 50, 60, and beyond. And then this is what starts to happen. So in your 20s, you can stay up late in college, you can eat a bunch of pizza and drink beer at night, and you're going to wake up the next day and probably feel a little hungover and maybe just fine. And then as you get to your 30s, the metabolism's starting to slow down a little bit already. And if you're like me, maybe you had children and they take a ton of your time, and that's disrupting your sleep and your hormones. And so if you don't make those lifestyle adjustments, you're going to start to notice weight gain, fatigue, more sugar cravings, you might swell easier. And a lot of women that we talk to just never were able to quite lose the baby weight for whatever reason. And that's insulin resistance does increase in pregnancy. And you do have to modify your lifestyle and tighten it up afterwards. That's just how we have to do it. Between 40 and 50, you might start to develop actual insulin resistance and see diagnosed criteria like high blood sugar, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, chronic pain and inflammation, and you might even develop non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I'm not going into the specific numbers today. We did a little bit more of that in the blood sugar boot camp. If Beth or Kendra want to drop the link for them to register for the blood sugar, or just drop the link to the replay page. They don't even need to register. Drop the replay page link so they can just have direct access to those videos. And it's in the first video where I go over the diagnostic criteria for insulin resistance. Okay. And then as you age a little bit more, 50 years, 60 years, then you're developing chronic diseases and type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cognitive impairment, liver cirrhosis. And I really think of this as the pebble, rock, boulder analogy. Have you ever heard of that one? It's like if life is trying to teach you a lesson, first you're going to get a little pebble. You might see a little bit of weight gain, maybe a little bit more belly fat. Maybe you're tired after you eat. And that's kind of like life throwing you a little, like, pay attention. And then if you don't pay attention and you don't make changes, then it's going to throw you a rock. And that's a little bit of a bigger problem. So that might be a diagnosis of high blood sugar, doctor threatening medication, a diagnosis of high blood pressure, and now you have to take a medication. And if you still don't pay attention, then you get a boulder. You have a stroke, you have a heart attack, you get peripheral neuropathy, you get cognitive impairment. I saw that hundreds of times over. I think I have a very interesting perspective on aging because I just saw so much of it as a geriatric PT. And I think a lot of times it's isolated to our family if you're not in healthcare. So this is especially important if you have a parent who had heart disease or a parent who had diabetes. You naturally, genetically are at an increased risk. And so it's even more important for you to take control and full accountability and responsibility for your lifestyle. And the beautiful thing that happens is you will inspire the next generation. You can be a cycle breaker. I am a cycle breaker. My dad has type 2 diabetes. Um, Almost all of my great grandparents had type 2 diabetes. A couple of my grandparents did. And I failed my first oral glucose tolerance test when I was pregnant with my son. And I thought, oh my gosh, I thought I was kind of eating healthy. It just kind of it shocked me. It was out of the blue. And I thought, wow, I have a lot to learn. And I did. I did have a lot to learn and I did learn it. And now I help teach it because I want to help you also be a cycle breaker and inspire the next generation or inspire your partner or your friends to get healthy. Because I think when we elevate the health of society, we elevate the joy, honestly, and the productivity of society. So I think we all have a role to play in that. All right, so why do things get so hard after menopause? The main reason is when estrogen drops, you lose a protective effect against insulin resistance. Okay. And estrogen is a really important hormone, not just for reproduction, but like for your brain and your muscle and your bone and your skin. And so what happens is your ovaries tap out. They're like, yeah, I did my job for like 50 years, I'm done. And your body then has some backup mechanisms to produce estrogen. One is the adrenal glands, those sit on top of the kidneys. The second is adipose or fat tissue. And so if you're really, really stressed out in midlife and your adrenal glands are pumping out stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, they're going to have a lower capacity to produce the estrogen, which means your fat that's producing the estrogen becomes even more valuable real estate. So, stress management becomes especially crucial in midlife and beyond to preserve the function of the adrenal glands and make your body feel like, okay, yeah, it's safe. Like we have the right hormonal atmosphere here to release this extra weight. So, unfortunately, you're going to see that rise in insulin and cortisol, and that is going to directly increase your risk for insulin resistance, increase your risk for decreased muscle and bone mass, and also increase your risk for fat and weight gain, especially around the belly. So, cortisol is notoriously known for an increase in belly fat. So this low insulin strategy is really important to kind of dial it in. I like to call it tightening things up. If you've been eating the same or exercising the same and steadily gaining weight, even though you're not doing anything differently, that is a perfect example that what is going on is hormonal, not caloric. So hormones are king, calories are queen. And there's a lot of lifestyle things that we can do to alter and optimize your biochemistry, your hormones. So inside our Zivli program, we teach a low insulin approach to nutrition. So what you eat and when you eat. So we also teach fasting, movement, sleep, and stress. And really all of those pillars are built on a strong foundation of mindset. I could have put like EBT, and what I've seen over the years, because I've been doing this, 7, almost 8 years now, is if you don't have a strong mindset, what you build is likely to fall under stress. Okay. So it's kind of like the whole biblical, if you build your house, I'm not saying EBT is, God or anything like that, but I am saying it's a helpful analogy where if you build your house on a solid foundation, it's going to withstand stressful storms. If you build your habits on a strong mindset, when life happens, when stress happens, you're going to be able to continue to make healthy choices. But if you are building these habits, white knuckling it, and you're not really focusing on the mindset side of it, then it's like you're building your house on sand. And when the rain came and the storm comes, it's going to fall over and you're going to feel like you're starting over every single week. All right. That is why mindset is so important. I have to tell you that willpower and discipline have never been the problem. So many people are like, oh, if I was more disciplined or if I had more motivation or more willpower, you have all the willpower that you need. It's just been directed towards the wrong activities. It's probably been directed towards a lot of the strategy stuff, learning what to eat, learning about different exercises, focusing on your health habits. Am I right? If that's been what you've done in the past, is primarily focus on the strategy, type yes in the chat for me. Because, yeah. So Amy said yes. Carol said yes. Deborah said yes. Judy, Beverly, Patricia. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is why you're here. This is why I made this training, was because that's how I used to be too. I used to just, I don't know. And I think that you're always just looking for the next best, right, only right way to do things. And there's actually a lot of right ways to keep insulin low. So, but the most important thing is mindset. Because your behaviors that you've been focusing so hard on changing are actually the tail end of a brain circuit. All right. But it starts in your brain. If you think about just like walking, like moving my hand like this, that's a brain function. That starts from the central nervous system and goes out to the peripheral nervous system. It innervates the muscles in my hand to make them move. Everything starts in the brain. And when you change your circuit, you're going to change your behavior naturally and effortlessly. And I know the effortlessly sounds too good to be true, but I'm going to explain what that means. If you can use all of your willpower and all of your discipline and all of your effort in learning EBT, in learning these mindset skills, that will be your greatest leverage. That will give you the most return on your energy investment, because then your behavior will change naturally and effortlessly. So you use your effort. It does take effort to rewire your brain, to stop the stress patterns, to create joy in your life. That takes effort because it's a new skill. But the beautiful thing is it's a skill and it can be learned. And when you do learn it, the behavior changes will change naturally. So I want you to think about it as if, it's kind of like the reverse of a stroke. If you think about a stroke victim, sometimes they have motor impairments then. So they have a stroke and then they can't move one side of their body, right? That's because it started in the brain. So if you want to change your behavior, you have to change the brain. Otherwise, it's just not going to last. This is a really good depiction of stress circuits versus joy circuits. Because when we're talking about the circuits in your brain, there's really just two kinds. There's stress, and when it comes to like mindset stuff like this, not motor innervation and sensation and stuff. But there are stress circuits in your brain and there are joy circuits in the brain. Now, stress circuits cause a hormonal cascade that drives weight gain and insulin resistance. Joy circuits causes a hormonal cascade that makes you feel better, that makes you feel more calm, that actually optimizes your biochemistry. Our natural state of well-being is joy. That's when we have surges of dopamine to feel good, but natural, not an artificial sledgehammer's dose of dopamine that just leaves you craving more. A natural microdosed burst of dopamine. We have serotonin to help us feel relaxed and oxytocin to help us feel loved, loving, and connected. Okay, that's what joy creates. So before emotional brain training, what happens is you don't have these stress resilient pathways and you haven't rewired those stress circuits. You're going to spiral down. That's why they say when it rains, it pours. There's a country song about that. When it rains, it pours. You're going to experience more stress. You're going to get hormone chaos and cravings and weight gain. So, if you have the tools to turn that stress into joy, which is what EBT gives you, then you can say, "Oh, I am not at a brain state 1 right now," which you're going to learn about what that means. I am not in joy. Let me grab my tools and let me spiral up because I can create joy from this stress. So that's why they called it the Spiral Up app, is because you can spiral up into joy. And it just takes minutes. So let's talk about the hormonal dysregulation that happens in stress. So these first two are fullness signals, GLP-1 and PYY. Someone said they're going to start, a GLP-1 pretty soon. What that's going to do for you is it might help you feel more full and it's going to slow your stomach emptying. But there's also 7 more hormones that are affected by stress that pretty much go untouched by a GLP-1 directly. And so that's why we want to get to the root cause here of the stress. So when you're stressed out, these fullness hormones decrease. And what that means is you're going to experience more hunger. And then ghrelin is your hunger hormone. When you're stressed out, that's going to increase. Leptin is your fat burning hormone. When you're stressed out, that decreases. So you're not burning fat. When you're stressed out, your cortisol increases. So you're going to have more carb cravings specifically. Cortisol causes the release of a compound that makes you want the salty and the sweet foods. You are not making that up. That is a real thing that is happening. It also is going to make you store more belly fat. Again, dopamine, which is your feel-good chemical, that's decreased. So cortisol kind of flushes that out of the brain system. This is what a nice little depiction is of this. So stress, depression, and anxiety, there's a much higher chance that you're going to struggle with depression and anxiety if you're chronically stressed out than if you're not. Okay. So if cortisol is up, just biochemically, that drives your dopamine and your serotonin down. So that's what's going on biochemically, why people who are stressed tend to have more depression and anxiety. They also have more food cravings because cortisol flushes the dopamine out of the system. It's like low. It's like, oh, I don't feel good. And what happens is they crave dopamine. They want rewarded. And so you can have an external solution to raise your dopamine. Food is just one of them. Another might be alcohol. It could be nicotine. It could be, shopping. Um, it could be calling and just like spewing negativity and venting to a friend, because talking about our emotions helps alleviate stress. But for a lot of people here, it might just be food, raising your dopamine, and then you feel better, right? But this is what's called an external solution. And it's also an artificial solution. And it will provide that sledgehammer effect of dopamine, this big dopamine burst, which drives addiction. Okay. We want small, microdosed, natural amounts of dopamine. EBT offers an internal solution to feel rewarded and to create joy without that artificial dopamine sledgehammer of food or nicotine or alcohol or excessive spending. So this is a really interesting picture here. This is the reward center in the brain comparing the effect of sugar to cocaine. Pretty strong. It's a pretty strong light up there. So sugar and cocaine, a drug, are both external solutions to make you feel rewarded. But if you have an internal solution to make you feel rewarded, you simply don't need those external solutions anymore. So again, at brain state, these are the 5 brain states, and this is really helpful. I'm not getting into the neurophysiology on which area of the brain is in control at any moment, but at brain state 1, I can tell you your neocortex is pretty much running the show. So your higher order thinking, you're going to feel great, you're going to have optimal behaviors. At brain state 2, we're moving a little bit lower in the brain, you're feeling good, and you have healthy behaviors. At brain state 3, a little bit lower, you're feeling a little bit stressed and your behaviors are kind of moderate, but your dopamine is definitely starting to drop. And then at brain state 4, you're definitely stressed, you have unhealthy behaviors. At brain state 5, you are stressed out, you have extremely unhealthy behaviors. This might be where the binging comes in, where it's like I start with a little bit of food and then I get more and more and more. Or you're snapping at your kids, you're snapping at your spouse. That's a brain state 5. Some people actually just shut down and go numb, okay? But I just really wanted you to start getting introduced to the whole concept of brain states here and know that when you're at a higher brain state, you're going to feel better. You're just going to feel happier. When you're at a lower brain state, you're going to feel worse. So going back to this chart, again, serotonin is that calming chemical. It helps reduce appetite. And when you're stressed out, of course, that's going to decrease. So you'll have an increased appetite. And then last but certainly not least is insulin. And it's responsible for blood sugar regulation. It's responsible for fat creation and storage. It increases your hunger. And in stress, it's going to increase. Okay. And the problem with that is when you have elevated insulin levels over a long period of time, you're going to develop insulin resistance. It's going to contribute to inflammation. And that's really the seed of the chronic health conditions that I treated in PT that I'm now trying to prevent. And again, I just highlight that GLP-1 for people who are on or are considering a GLP-1 medication as a reminder that that might be a nice jump start or a nice bridge for you, but it is not the end all be all. It may not be a long-term solution for you. And there is no getting around this essential mindset work in order to adjust the other 7 chemicals. Okay. So when you have a low insulin and inflammation strategy, which is what we teach in our Zivley program, and the emotional brain training tools to rewire stress circuits into joy circuits, all of these hormones regulate, and that leads to natural weight loss that is sustainable. It's very difficult for me to explain how this happens in real life, but I would say the best way is spontaneous change. One day in the evening, I just didn't crave more food after dinner. I had all these external strategies in place to brush my teeth, to have a cup of hot tea, to have a sparkling water after dinner. A lot of those strategy, cognitive behavioral therapy ideas I had and I did. And they worked for the most part, unless I was under a lot of stress. And then it just kind of came to the point where my stress was low enough that I didn't feel like I needed that extra burst of dopamine in the evenings. But this makes perfect sense because most emotional eating happens at night, right? It happens after you've had a whole day of stress built up and the dopamine is drained and it's evening and there's probably stuff going on, especially if you're a mom, like with young kids to put to bed. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was kind of like the letdown after all of the chaos. And it was like my time to go have a treat. And I would have, popcorn and chocolate chips and, oh, it's not that much. And I would just kind of justify it to myself. But it adds up over time, and it did add up over time. And so I have just found nothing more effective than actually rewiring the food circuit that made me want food for pleasure, that made me want food for comfort. If you can rewire those circuits, you can really experience spontaneous, lasting change. And the other thing that is just really a great question is how can you expect to change your behavior without rewiring the circuits that drive your behavior? Most programs work to manage and control behavior, but EBT rewires the brain, the circuits that control the behavior. If that makes sense, I want you to type yes in the comments. If you have questions about that, please let me know. That's great. I love reading all the comments coming in. This is a really important point to understand. And it's not that we don't focus on behavior. You still have to have the right strategy. If you don't, if you're consistent with the wrong strategy, it's kind of like plugging in the wrong destination into a GPS when you're trying to go somewhere. You're just not going to get where you want to go if you have the wrong address. But my argument, unlike, and guys, I've read most all the books on insulin resistance, but not one of them talks about the real biochemical link between how you think and how those thoughts drive your behaviors that then contribute to insulin resistance. All of them identify insulin resistance as the root cause of so many chronic diseases, and that is true. But the huge missing piece, and what I would love to write a book on someday, is this is what we need to focus on. Let's really put all of our thinking brain activity into fixing and rewiring these stress circuits so that we want to make healthy choices, so that it becomes incongruent with who we are at our core to make unhealthy choices. Because the truth is, you weigh what is most rewarding to your emotional brain for you to weigh. And if you have circuits around food related to, pleasure, comfort, love, safety, that's always going to be pulling you down. So your stress circuits really, really act as a floor of which you can't go lower than for your weight or your blood sugar management. And that's really what I mean when I say hormones are king and calories are queen. Let's talk about brain state next. So we've talked a little bit about stress circuits and we've talked about joy circuits. A brain state, as I just showed you, there's 5 of them. Okay, and we're going to review them again in a second here. But a brain state is predominantly made of what circuits are firing. Are you firing stress circuits or joy circuits? If they're stress circuits, how low are they in the brain? How stressed out are you? And the brain state is like a thermostat in your home. It's kind of like where are you at on an everyday basis? That's your brain state. However, your brain state also kind of acts as a heart rate and it can change moment to moment. Like if I got a call from my kid's school right now saying, oh, Leah fell again and she's hurt and you have to come pick her up, I would straight up go to a brain state 5 because I'm in the middle of a live training right now and I want to serve you guys out of integrity because I said I was going to do that. So or if you get a call from someone who stresses you out, that's going to put you down at a 5. Or if you have to be around your crazy uncle or your crazy brother or sister at Christmas time, that affects your brain state. Okay. So again, it's determined by what circuits are firing most often. We've talked about this, but just as a review, the stress circuits produce disease-promoting chemicals. Joy circuits produce healing chemicals. Behaviors are the tail end of a circuit, and that's why stress circuits are the root cause of insulin resistance and must be addressed for lasting changes to your health. I want you to think of this as like a little mantra, change the circuit, change the behavior, change the circuit, change the behavior. Okay? Really, that's neuroscience. That is neuroscience. Let's talk more about the thinking brain versus the emotional brain. So remember, the thinking brain is in charge when you're at brain states 1 or 2, when you're feeling great or good. The emotional brain is in charge when you are at brain states 3, somewhat stressed or a little stressed, 4, definitely stressed, and 5, stressed out. Okay, that's deeper in the brain, more primitive, more survival based. That's the emotional brain. So the thinking brain is located in the top front part of your brain. It's logical, it's calm, it's long term, it's intentional. So you're making your best decisions when you're at brain state 1. It's like the wise adult part of your brain. And it's motivated by higher purpose rewards like sanctuary, authenticity, vibrancy, integrity, intimacy, spirituality, and freedom. Now, I'm going to repeat those one time, and I want you to type in the chat which one is just like lights you up. Which higher purpose reward is so motivating to you that you are committed to doing the work to rewire your brain to experience it on a regular basis? Let me know. So, sanctuary, meaning peace and power from within. And Beth, why don't you go ahead and type these in the chat too so they have a list to see? So, sanctuary, peace and power from within. Authenticity, feeling whole and being genuine. Vibrancy, healthy with a zest for life. Integrity, doing the right thing. Intimacy, giving and receiving love. Spirituality, however you define it. And then lastly is freedom. So freedom from all of the common excesses and a life of joy and purpose. Good job, Kendra. Thanks for that. So someone said this fits in well with CBT. How one thinks is who one is. It's I would say I actually talk about CBT coming up here. And so we will get to that, but I'm going to save my comments on CBT for and how EBT is different from that coming up. Doesn't that feel good to think of your higher purpose reward? If you want to take like a screenshot or copy and paste those 7 motivating rewards, do that because another way that you can create joy in your life is with they call them joy points in EBT, and it's called What's My Reward? And every single action that you take during a day, you can tie to a higher purpose reward and instantly feel a surge of joy. So, for example, I'm here right now. I'm doing what I said I was going to do. Am I doing it perfectly? No. So, I'm experiencing the rewards of integrity and authenticity. and that brings me joy. Or how about when my son was in a bad mood last night and it was kind of bringing me down? And I was honest with him. That was intimacy. What about when I exercise when I don't want to? That's doing what I know is right. So integrity. And it's making me feel vibrant. So vibrancy. So if you can really like just memorize those 7 rewards and tie it to your actions throughout the day, that's going to really help you be more connected and more motivated and more rewarded, and it will create joy. So I'm going to check the comments and then we'll talk about the emotional brain. Yeah, great. Isn't that fun? A life of joy and purpose. That's great for him. Yes. Okay, emotional brain. Located in deeper structures of the brain. I'm not getting into the physiology here. It is fast, it is reactive, and it is protective. Sometimes it's called the reptilian brain. It's just very, very primitive. And it's the rebellious child part of the brain. Okay. Um, if you think about children, their thinking brain is not fully evolved, and it is so obvious because, man, Dawson's brushing his teeth in the same bathroom as Leah, and she just freaks out, and her emotional brain totally takes over, and it's 8 o'clock at night, and she throws a fit. I'm like, she is at brain state 5. Her emotional brain is driving this show, and I can have a lot of compassion for her because I understand that and I can stay in my thinking brain, thank the good Lord, and co-regulate with her and help her raise her brain state. So think of the emotional brain as the rebellious child. You know you shouldn't have that cookie. You know you shouldn't eat the ice cream at like 9 at night, but you do it anyways. That's the emotional brain. It's called emotional eating for a reason, right? We do not call it thinking eating. It is emotional eating. So we need emotional tools. Remember that. We need emotional tools to treat the emotional brain. So it's motivated by pleasure, comfort, love, or survival based on the brain state. We're going to look at that coming up here. So this is a really, really quick, easy, feels so good emotional brain training tool that we're going to do together right now. This is called the check-in, and it's going to help you calm your stress, improve your biochemistry in just a minute. So if you would, if you're multitasking, come back to me, be fully present right now. And just turn your attention to your body and your breathing. And breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Or in any way that feels really comforting and comfortable to you. And then put your shoulders back and your chin up and your chest out. Bring a warm smile to your face and crinkle the corners of your eyes like you're thinking about someone that you love or a happy memory. And this is just your body giving your brain the message that you are in a state of well-being. And then warmly observe yourself. See yourself in the present moment, just as you are, with all the challenges, all of your stressors, all of your accomplishments, and feel a wave of compassion for yourself. And then ask yourself, what's my number? Am I at a 1, feeling great, present with a glow? 2, feeling good, present but no glow. 3, a little stressed, like my thoughts and my emotions are kind of scattered. 4, definitely stressed, like I'm perseverating on one thought and my emotion is stuck. I can't break this mood. Or are you at a 5, totally stressed out, totally overwhelmed, like you're going to snap? Take all the time that you need. Lastly, take a moment to deepen that secure attachment to your sanctuary, that safe place inside of you, and appreciate your unending capacity for love, compassion, and ultimately joy. And then when you're ready, return to the group and type your brain state in the chat. So where are you at right now? There's a list of the brain states. So we have a 1, great. And I want you to also recognize before and after. Aren't you a little bit more calm right now? Don't you feel a little more present right now? That's the power of these very simple tools to change your biochemistry in minutes. Amy's at a 4, Brenda's at a 3. We have a 2, 2, 2. And if there's time at the end of the training, I'm open to coaching, especially like for Amy, since she's at a higher brain state. Hi, Ron. Good to see you here. Ron goes to our church neighbor. Might be Kathy too. Might be his wife. Might be both of them. Okay, Roseanne's at a 3. Yeah, good. Okay, so that's good. There's no bad brain state. Every brain state has its benefits. In order to find and rewire the deepest circuits in your brain that cause self-sabotage, it actually requires you to get down to a brain state 5. Okay, and we do that through therapeutic stress activation using the EBT tools. So, stress can be a very productive state if you know what to do with it. So, if you're actively really, really stressed out or you're really triggered, that's an opportunity to find a wire if you know how. If you're not really stressed out, you can still find a wire if you know how to use the tools and therapeutically activate a short-term stress response to kind of open up that circuit in your brain, turn it on so you can find it. But you can only rewire what you can find. And in order to be very effective at using the EBT tools, you have to get kind of comfortable with a brain state 5. You don't need to fear it. You only have to fear stress when you don't know how to handle stress. Okay. I think this is very interesting. We talked earlier about how the emotional brain is motivated by lower order rewards, such as pleasure. I wouldn't call them rewards. I would just say different things. So if at 1, we eat for purpose, that means we eat for freedom. We eat for freedom from food cravings. We eat for freedom from blood sugar swings. We eat for vibrancy to feel healthy with a zest for life. We eat out of integrity because it's what we said we would eat. We eat out of authenticity because we like it or we don't like it. And sometimes when you're at 1, so at 1 is where intuitive eating works. You can eat intuitively only if you are at a sustained brain state 1. But that's why intuitive eating usually does not work otherwise, because your hormones are dysregulated, your satiety signals are off, and you're not adequately attuned to your body feel as if, like, are you actually full or not? So that's a really important point on intuitive eating there. The other thing is food can be pleasurable. You absolutely can get pleasure from eating food while you're at brain state 1. The key is to stay at brain state 1, to spiral up before you eat, and to stay at brain state 1 as you eat, because overeating is not pleasurable. So this is just a great rule of thumb. Spiral up to 1 before you eat. Spiral up to 1 before you talk to your partner. You're going to have better biochemistry, better relationships, and a healthier diet for sure. So I want to know, why do you normally eat? So if your set point is usually at a 3, does that correlate with what this slide shows? Like, do you normally eat for comfort? Or if your set point's closer to 2, which mine was probably like a 3 when I started EBT. And so I definitely had food wires around comfort and pleasure. But what's yours? Do you eat for purpose, pleasure, comfort, love, or safety most of the time? Put it in the chat. Yeah, no problem, Kathy. We'll email you the replay this afternoon. Sally, I love that. She says, LOL, I eat to wake up. Yeah, my husband eats to live, not live to eat. Yeah. 2 and 3, 2 and 3, 1. Hi, Joanne. Great to see you here. Joanne's a longtime Zibly member. Brenda's a 3. Leslie's a comfort, comfort. Yeah. Is this starting to make a little bit of sense? If you struggle with emotional eating, are you starting to put the picture together that this is a stress problem? If you're starting to put that together, type yes in the comments. Sometimes I think we assume it's a willpower problem, or it's my fault, or I'm not good enough, and it's not. It's just a wiring problem. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. And a biochemical problem because the wiring causes that biochemical effect. That's why I like to say obesity and diabetes is not behavioral, it is biochemical. The biochemistry drives the behavior. So stress is why you might say, I know exactly what to do, but I don't do it. It is so frustrating. So frustrating. It's not a wiring problem, a willpower problem, it's a wiring problem. This kind of goes back to the conversation on cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT. We need emotional strategies, not thinking strategies, to rewire stress circuits into joy circuits. I do think that there is some benefit to cognitive behavioral therapy or talk therapy or psychotherapy. The problem is that that stays in the thinking brain. Okay. So all of those are great strategies if you're at one or two, or when you're at one or two. If you can spiral up to one or two, you're going to be able to remember what you talked about in your cognitive behavioral therapy session. Okay. But if you're at a lower brain state, chances are you might not even like remember. Okay. Same for prayer or spiritual counseling, same for positive affirmations and auto suggestion. Many times, we're going to get into some principles of neuroplasticity and how it's incorporated into EBT. But as I said, I used auto suggestion. I still use it. Mind you, like I would still use all of these things, but I think EBT is a tool that makes these even more effective. And it takes it to the next level and a deeper level. But I would say, who I want to be every single morning, and we call it that our personal faith formula. I love that. It's one of my favorite course modules in Zivli. But what we realized was that really only works if you can keep your stress low. Okay. And again, I did it for years and I saw much faster, better results when I rewired the emotional brain. The other thing here, I think this is on an upcoming slide. But these strategies specifically help with self-regulation, which means calming your nervous system. Nervous system, regulation is kind of a buzzword right now. And that's good. That's really good. We need to do that. And there's a lot of strategies to do that, EBT being one of them. But it is the only strategy that does the deeper rewiring work. And we're going to talk about why that is so important coming up. Yeah, so this is the slide that I wanted. Right when I wanted it. I love when that works out. So step one in the EBT process is self-regulation. Here, you're going to improve your stress resilience and increase your joy. So this is called priming the brain. Okay. We're marinating your brain in joy. If you like cooking meat on the grill or something, it's always going to be a better dish if you take the time to marinate your meat before you cook it. You're always going to have more success in rewiring if you take the time to marinate your brain in joy. Okay. The next thing is rewiring stress circuits into joy circuits. EBT is really the only proven method that is reliable and predictable and fast and effective to do that. Your brain has natural pathways to turn stress into joy, to rewire those circuits. And EBT just essentially codified those pathways, which means they identified them, they put a process and a system around it. Um, it's incredible. And then the third step is advanced kits to become wired at one or wired for joy. And each of those advanced kits, it's like a monthly reading kit with like daily readings, just short little 5-minute readings every day. And there's one for each of the rewards. So the sanctuary, authenticity, um, vibrancy, integrity, intimacy, spirituality, and freedom. And what you're doing is you're just clearing out past emotional clutter. You are reconsolidating past trauma or fear memories that are blocking your joy, and you're strengthening the joy circuits. Okay. So if you're thinking about it, this is kind of the stop the bleeding, the self-regulation, like stop the stress in the moment. Part two is where we're doing the repair work. So rewiring those stress circuits. And then this is where we're doing the building work of building stronger joy circuits. Now, when we're talking about the rewiring work, that's step two, I think that this is a really helpful thing to tell you is you're going to rewire a lot of different circuits, but it's recommended to start here in this order. So the first circuit that you're going to find is your food circuit, and then a mood circuit, and then a love circuit, and then a body circuit. For people who really, really, really struggle with weight, usually a body circuit's kind of hard to find. Their emotional brain really likes to hang on to that one. And so having practice rewiring different types of circuits makes that more effective. I'm going to give you just an example of my own circuits, just so you can have some language behind, well, what does this circuit even sound like? And again, we find these through the EBT Spiral Up app. It's best done in coaching because you can go deeper into your brain when you have a provider co-regulating with you. It's kind of like a lifeguard or a really good swim instructor who knows when you should keep swimming, knows, when to keep allowing you to swim in that emotional brain versus when to kind of step in, offer nurturing, offer guidance, pull you up if you need to. You need someone to co-regulate with you to go as deep as possible. And that's why it's built into the program. Coaching support is built in. So one of my food wires was I get my pleasure from feeling full. This is so funny. I get my pleasure from feeling full to the point that I'm physically uncomfortable and full of shame and regret, something like that. So I was getting my pleasure, emotional pleasure from eating to the point that I was, or excuse me, my comfort, I think that was the wire, to the point that I was physically uncomfortable. Can you guys relate to that one? Do you ever eat for emotional comfort to the point that you're physically uncomfortable? Can you see how, like, when you take a step back and think about that wire with your thinking brain, it's totally irrational? But that's the emotional brain. It is not rational. None of my wires are rational, right? Yes. My mood wires were huge. So wires can be stored at any of the brain states. You might have some lighter wires that are stored at brain state 2 or 3, and then you might have some deeper wires that are stored at brain state 4 or 5. And my mood wires were intergenerational, meaning I got them from my parents. Um, I essentially saw how they behaved. And then my brain was like, well, that's how you behave. So one of them that really bothered me was I get my power from being angry to the point that I scare my kids. I'm a pretty nice person. I consider myself a good mom. But when I was stressed out, I would snap at them. Or like when they did something that was so bad, I would just snap at them. I couldn't, it was emotional, it was an emotional reflex. And when I did my work, I found out, well, why am I doing that? Why do I do that? Why do I do what I don't want to do? It reminds me of that Bible verse. It's like, why do I keep doing the things that I don't want to do? I don't know, which maybe Beth can find that one and plug that in there. I love that verse. Well, that's how I saw my parents get their power, was by being angry. So it's natural that I would follow suit. And you have a lot of compassion for yourself, a lot of love for yourself, because it's just a circuit. It's just a wire. It's not you. And you can rewire that. So, love, my love wires were the deepest of all. And those were definitely intergenerational. You can have a merge circuit or you can have a distancing circuit. So, merging means you're merging with another person. You are overly attuned to their wants, to their needs at the detriment of yourself. So, you neglect yourself because you're so merged with that other person. You downplay what you really want, or you neglect your health in whatever capacity that looks like. Now, most people have both merge and distancing. So you merge to the point where you're like, I can't take this anymore, and then you distance. And that's what that was my snap every single harvest was I can't take this anymore. I gotta get out of here. This is too much. And so it was I get my peace from escaping to the point that I don't remember what that last part was, but yeah, so rewiring those, transformational for our marriage. My husband said this has been an answer to my prayers. And I also would consider myself, I know that I'm like, it's me and I'm biased, but I consider myself a pretty good wife too. And then my body circuit, that was pretty light. That was something from high school. It was like I get my love from, boys giving me positive attention. So I don't have a huge body circuit, but many, many people do. The body circuit can be either one of judgment, so we're judging our bodies, or it can be one of self-protection, like we're holding on to extra weight for an emotional bubble wrap, for whatever emotional protection. So I won't get too into that, but I just wanted to give you a little teaser on, what kinds of circuits are there. And then there's other things like maybe if you struggle with smoking or drinking, that would be considered a habit circuit. If there's a relationship in your life that has a lot of past trauma or fear memories or negative experiences, that would sometimes you call that like the person circuit. Like I rewired my brother's circuit and have a lot more compassion for him now. We can't fix people, we can't change people, but we can change ourselves and we can change how we think about them. We can do our part in the relationship. And the reason that this is so important and why there's four is because when it comes to overeating, stress eating, the mood, love, and body circuits act as feeder circuits for your food circuit. They're reactive circuits that increase your stress that make you want to seek dopamine from food. So some people have like a mood that precedes the emotional eating. If they're angry, if they're lonely, if they're tired, if they're mad, then that might make them go eat. It's a feeder circuit. If they're having an issue with a love circuit, that might make them want to go eat if there's conflict in a relationship. If they're feeling bad about their body or if they're feeling emotionally unsafe or like they need to protect themselves, they might go to food. So I want you to type yes, if that makes sense. If it makes sense that those are feeder circuits for your food circuits. Mm, yeah. Thanks for sharing your experience, Paul. Good. I'm glad this is making sense. It made total sense. It made just total sense to me. So I'm glad it's making sense to you. I hate to tell you this, but to treat stress, you need its opposite. And I know that's a typo. It's not supposed to be IT apostrophe S. I know that. Don't leave any mean comments. But I'm not going to edit it right now because I'm not perfect. And that's an essential pain of being authentic. So there's me practicing EBT right there. So the opposite of stress is not relaxation, it's actually joy. Joy is the biochemical opposite of stress. If relaxation were the answer, it would have worked by now. Because on average, adults in the US, this is from Google, spend around 2.5 hours a day on social media and around 3.5 to 4.5 hours a day watching TV. Might be more on the weekends if you're a football fan, especially this time of year. And that leads to a combined total of about 6 to 7 hours of quote unquote like relaxation a day. And we are still more stressed out than ever. So relaxation alone is not the answer. I love this picture. This kind of goes back to the emotional brain training compared to cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay. And all of those other strategies that work for self-regulation. So I got to give you some backstory here, okay? This is Sheryl Sandberg. She's the ex like CEO or something of Facebook. She was a bigwig in Facebook, helped Mark Zuckerberg build it up. Then she went and done her own thing. She's the author of Lean In, which is a pretty good book. And then this is Commander Mike Seedsma. So we had the joy. Oh, and this is a nuclear submarine. So she's like smashing a champagne bottle. This was the naming ceremony to name the submarine. And you can't see the big boat. I tried to find a big picture of it, but I couldn't find one. Okay. So this guy was our neighbor for 2 years. So he was stationed at Offutt Air Force Base. He has a wife, and it was during COVID. So they were in our COVID bubble. We got super duper close. They're from New York, so we visited them twice since they've moved away. I'd really like to go to like when the boat is commissioned. That's in March. And when I was thinking about a good analogy of like, how do I help people understand the difference between these cognitive behavioral therapy, the thinking brain, the self-regulation strategies, and EBT, I think the best analogy is to think about a boat, like a submarine. And if they had a hole in their boat, what are they going to do? The first thing they're going to do is they're going to stop the leak. They're going to plug the hole. That is step one in the EBT process. That is self-regulation. Meditation can help with that. Prayer can help with that. Cognitive behavioral therapy techniques can help with that. That's just step one, though. The next thing that he would do, or he'd have, one of his sailors do, is fix it. So we're not just plugging it, we're fixing it. We're repairing the hole. That is what is missing from cognitive behavioral therapy techniques and other forms of self-regulation. You're not actually going in, finding the circuit, extracting it. It's like you're doing brain surgery on yourself and transforming that circuit into a joy circuit. So that would be the next step. The third step they would probably do is reinforce the fix. And that's the third step in EBT. That's the advanced kits. That's the building work of strengthening your joy circuits. So that was kind of a fun one. That was a little self-indulgent just because I miss them. They live in Virginia now, but that's my boat analogy for you and why if you don't do the rewiring work, you will always have to be like constantly self-regulating yourself. And it's, unless you're a monk and you can like go live in seclusion, it's just impossible. But if you rewire your circuits that trigger stress, you're just going to have less stress from which you need to self-regulate. I hope that that's making sense. Because starting out in EBT, it's going to be a lot of self-regulation. It's going to be a lot of cycles around situational stress and just creating joy points. But as you move along in the process and start the rewiring work, you're just not as stressed out, you know? Yeah. Okay. Amy, I'm glad that you like my analogy. EBT is really a paradigm shift. Brain circuits that may impact weight, this is important, are often formed during a traumatic time in early childhood or adolescence, or a period of stress overload as an adult. Okay. So, one of the principles in neuroplasticity is what wires together fires together. And we have a really, really powerful, I will email it to you guys so you can watch it over the weekend. Carolyn might be here. One of our members found her food circuit, and it was really very interesting where it formed at a time in childhood that was a traumatic event and definitely stress overload. And that was linked to food, So what fires together wires together. If stress and food fire together, like, well, when I'm stressed and I eat, I feel better. That circuit will strengthen and strengthen and strengthen until you break it. Oh, that's not supposed to be there either. I was going to delete that and then I forgot. This was a slide I took from the blood sugar boot camp. So you can see a brain map on day 3 if you want to go watch that video. Okay, the other thing to recognize is that these circuits form and activate without your permission. So your circuits, your neural circuits, they form without your permission and they're emotionally reflexive. Like you can't control whether or not you get triggered, but you can control whether you give yourself the tools to kind of spiral up into joy. So again, this is not your fault. Your circuits are not your fault. You are not the problem. You are not a failure. Your problems stem from circuits. And if you didn't even really understand or know that this existed, that these stress circuits existed, you cannot hold it against yourself for not doing better. But when we know better, we can do better. Okay. So now you know better. I hope you do EBT because it's really life-changing. This is Dr. Mellon. She's the founder of EBT. And one of my favorite quotes, so she developed the method, and it says on the next slide, I think 40 years of research, 14 studies. This is her life's work. And it's so impressive. And she says, trying to change your behavior without lowering your stress so you can change your behavior is called suffering. I'm going to say that again. Trying to change your behavior without lowering your stress so you can change your behavior is called suffering. Okay, very important. We didn't used to have EBT as part of our Zivley program simply because I didn't know about it yet. And the second that I learned about it, I've poured the last 6 months of my life learning it, getting it to our members because it is very effective. I could have housed another webinar just about the strategy and stuff, but I'm like, this is the missing piece. People need to know about this. So what happens with GLP-1s alone? Okay. This is the suffering that Dr. Mellon just talked about. 68 weeks on a GLP-1, you're going to see a drop in both blood sugar and weight, but then the medications stop and you see this rebound effect, which is really tough. It's really tough when you spend money, when you spend time, when you spend energy doing something and you don't see results that last. But that's what happens with GLP-1s if you don't have the simultaneous mindset and lifestyle changes. With EBT, this is over 5 years, okay? And you can see a very significant downtrend even after treatment stops, okay? So substantial lasting results. And it's even better when you combine it with a good strategy. Like this was just the mindset stuff that led to the weight loss. So let's talk just a little bit about the psychology behind EBT. Again, it's very, very well thought out. It's grounded in the family systems and attachment models. It helps your brain learn to feel calm, safe, and connected again, first with yourself and then with others. So we have to feel safe and calm and connected inside before we can truly have intimacy with others. And the tools, processes, and coaching help you heal from past trauma, reconsolidate fear memories, clear emotional clutter, and develop a secure, loving attachment to yourself with high expectations and high nurturing. Essentially, you learn to reparent yourself. Because if growing up you had parents who were like, they had high expectations, but low nurturing, you might have like adopted that same internal dialect of like being really hard on yourself, being a perfectionist, being an overachiever. I can relate to that. But on the other side, if they had like low expectations but high nurturing, you might be overly permissive or overly permissive with your behaviors or justify them. And then sometimes, if you were kind of just like neglected or abandoned, you might not have a lot of self-parenting. So these are just beautiful tools to help you connect and parent yourself. It's really cool. So EBT is based on neuroscience, so brain science, and positive neuroplasticity. That means the brain's ability to strengthen and grow healthy neural connections through focused, repeated positive experiences, leading to beneficial changes in mood, resilience, and skills. Okay, so it's essentially positive brain change. Now, the process is the solution. That is really important. The EBT process is the solution. So the first principle of neuroplasticity that is incorporated into EBT is repetition. Again, what fires together, wires together. Every repeated thought, feeling, or behavior strengthens that brain circuit. So if you have repeated stress circuits, that's going to be allostatic, meaning disease causing, causes insulin resistance. Repeated joy circuits, homeostatic, balancing, better health outcomes. EBT gives you a fast, easy, repeatable, simple, and rewarding tool to turn stress into joy. So you're going to start to crave EBT and crave like clearing that emotional clutter and that feeling that you get when you're done using a tool compared to craving the food because it is more rewarding to do so. You are more motivated by the higher purpose rewards than pleasure, comfort, love, or safety. You get kind of so focused on staying at brain state one, that is your priority, so that you can stay calm and connected with yourself so that you can make better choices. Okay. And the prescription there is just 10 moments of joy a day. That's with various types of joy points and then some of the cycles on the EBT Spiral Up app. So, first principle of neuroscience, neuroplasticity, repetition. The second is emotion. The brain rewires faster with feeling. That's why if I asked you, where were you on September 11th, on 9/11, I'm guessing you could tell me exactly where you were. Because at that moment in time, when you found out that the Twin Towers had been struck, you were filled with fear and stress, emotion. You remember emotional days much better than what you would just remember like your average Tuesday. Or if I asked you, what do you have for dinner a week ago? You're like, I don't know, Morgan. But if I'm like, what do you have for dinner at your wedding? You might be able to remember that. Your brain remembers things with emotion. The emotional brain does not change through logic alone. That's why we know what to do. We can't do it. That's not the part of the brain that's running the show. It rewires through felt emotional experience. The stronger the emotional engagement, the faster, deeper, and more long-lasting the rewiring results. EBT uses emotions as medicine to change your biochemistry and accelerate change. So it is built in to the tools to help you experience the range of emotions, like the negative emotions and the positive ones, and also the process through regular connections and coaching to help it be emotional. Like it's supposed to be emotional for your emotional brain. And that's why when I read my personal faith formula every morning, even though I tried sometimes to make it like emotional and feel it, it's like it wasn't enough. It wasn't getting to my emotional brain. Principle three is connection. Your emotional brain is very social, it's very primitive, survival based, and we know that humans thrive with connection. We know that just from our biological standpoint, we needed other people to survive. Okay, so the emotional brain is wired for survival, it's wired for connection. And the brain rewires through co-regulation. You can't rewire what you can't find, and you can't find the deep wires on your own. Okay? You need some coaching and support for that. The nervous system learns safety through connection, co-regulation, like a baby. A baby's crying. I have a baby. He's so great. He's so cute. And I come over and this is a bad example. He doesn't cry much. I think his sister cries more than him and she's 5. One of my kids is crying. And I come over to them and I co-regulate with them. It's an electrical and a chemical. It's more so electrical at that point. My calm electricity is actually like impacting their electrical signals in their body, and it's co-regulation. It's so cool. So when you're doing the deep work, you're borrowing the brain state of your provider. When you dip down to 5, they stay at 1, just like a parent who calms a child in stress. And this is why support speeds up change, why isolation slows it down, and why EBT is so powerfully, like, works so powerfully when you're coached in a group setting. Okay. So I know, like, literally, the biggest reason that people don't enroll in our program is they want to try it on their own. And I know that you can see some progress on your own, but in order to reach your optimal health, your optimal biochemistry, your optimal brain state, you need connection and you need coaching. So connection creates the state where rewiring becomes possible, where rewiring those deep circuits, the ones that really sabotage you, becomes possible. So in summary, there's more principles of neuroplasticity. I just picked the 3 that I think are the most obvious in EBT: repetition, emotion, and connection. Without these principles, you will not see lasting results. And that's why you don't need another diet. You don't need another exercise program. You don't need another thinking brain solution. A medication might, I just hate to poo-poo that because I know it's a very emotional decision, but it is not the end all be all. Okay. And a lot of those thinking brain strategies, tracking your macros, all that stuff, not bad, but it's only going to work if you can stay in your thinking brain. If you can get to 1 and stay at 1, and to do that, you do need EBT. So in summary, our Zivley Lifestyle Medicine program works perfectly with emotional brain training to optimize your entire biochemistry and your habits, your life, your quality of life, your health. It's amazing. And I would love to invite you to join today. So enrollment's going to close on Friday. I am going to take you behind the scenes in just a little bit and answer any questions that you have about our program. And I hope to see you on the inside because it's really a life-changing program. And we have some major changes that Beth is my head coach integrator. We just decided them like very, very recently, and I'm really excited to share them with you on how we're structuring things to offer even more support for our members. So we're breaking it down into 2 different phases. Our program started at 8 weeks, then we extended it to 10, then we extended it to 12. And we were reflecting about, just feedback. And the number one thing that new members say is they were overwhelmed by how much great information they got. So we're actually extending the program to 6 months. 6 months. The first 3 months is where you're going to build the conditions to rewire your brain. So you're priming your brain for change. The first 12 weeks, we start in January, you're going to learn the lifestyle medicine content, so the strategy side of things. You're going to get 12 weeks of new member Q&A calls. So I host those every week. We're going to go topic by topic and answer any questions that you have about that week's course content. And this is going to help you stabilize your blood sugar, improve your sleep, reduce inflammation, practice joy points and emotional regulation. Essentially here we're stopping the leak in the boat in phase 1. Because it's nearly impossible to change your wiring when your brain is inflamed from the chemicals that you're putting inside. Food is just chemicals. So when you change what you eat, you change your neuroinflammation, which makes rewiring easier. Um, Better sleep makes rewiring easier. It's just hard to do anything when you're exhausted and when you're running on stress hormones. So this building phase gets your brain ready for the deeper rewiring so that the habits that you're building and that you're learning about, number one, you can form them easier over time. And number two, they're going to last, okay? Because you've rewired the triggers that would otherwise sabotage your efforts. Number two, phase two is the next 3 months. So months 4 to 6, you're going to work on rewiring. So you're going to begin emotional brain training with EBT. And in this phase, there's a brand new EBT module. The reason that I felt like this is really, really important to do is I love Dr. Mellon. Like I love her. I think that she is brilliant. Again, she's the founder of EBT. But when I was going through EBT for training, I felt like things could be condensed a little bit and made more linear and organized and easier to understand so that you can get it faster. So it like clicks faster. So working with Dr. Mellon, we wrote video scripts for my course module. Only exclusive, like it's exclusively available to our Zibly members. You cannot get it through EBT directly. And I think it is the best way to learn EBT. Okay. So in that phase of the program, you're still going to get ongoing weekly live Q&A calls, new member Q&A calls, so that you learn EBT over time in connection, in community. Okay. And we're going to continue with the self-regulatory work, but we're also going to start rewiring. And again, I will email you. I don't know when, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, I will email you that session that I did with a member that was really, really powerful. I was on a high for like days after that about finding her food circuit so that you can see what the rewiring looks like. And that's kind of what we would be doing in this phase too. And then here we're just really starting to shift our habits from willpower to more automatic, that spontaneous behavior change. Okay. Again, your emotional brain is sensitive to stress. So this last cohort that we did in September, that was kind of, again, the primary feedback was it was a lot to learn both the strategy and the mindset kind of at the same time. So we're spreading it out. We're going to allow plenty of time, support, and connection to ease the stress and allow you to enjoy the process. Okay. EBT is a long-term skill, and this is where you're going to learn and practice the foundations of rewiring, not where the work ends. Okay. I would say to get through all of the advanced kits, it would take about a year. But that stuff, a lot of it you can do on your own just as part of like your morning mindset routine. So, but initially, especially to learn EBT, it's best done in community so that you can find those deeper wires. So what I'm going to do now is stop my share and just kind of show you behind the scenes what that course looks like. Actually, I'm going to share, but I'm just sharing a different tab. Let me get that pulled up. Here we go. Okay. So this is our course curriculum. So right when you join, you have access to this onboarding process. Okay. And then over the next 3 months, then you would get access to like this health data, EBT quick start lesson, health data and interpretation, food tracking, all the strategy stuff, because very often we find that there's some unlearning to do, especially if you come from a Weight Watchers background or if you tried different diets. It's like you got to learn, what am I supposed to be doing here, especially after age 50 when the rules change. Our fuel module lessons all about like carbohydrates, proteins, fats, micronutrients, hydration, fasting. We talk about the benefits, how to fast, meal planning and prepping, stress, sleep, physical activity. All of these are pre-recorded video lessons, but we're going to release them kind of a little bit of it at a time to reduce overwhelm. And you can watch them on your own schedule and then join us live for a group coaching call. And then module 7, personal faith formula. And then we're going to move up for this cohort, this system for success, because that really ties in all of the strategy really, really nicely. And then this last one, the future you framework, is a new lesson where I help you identify your values and your roles and then create your schedule accordingly. Because if you don't schedule your time intentionally, someone else is going to schedule it for you. And you're going to end up with the schedule that you don't love, that's not supportive of your goals. Okay. So that's kind of the first 3 months. The next 3 months then would be all of this amazing emotional brain training content. So again, the big picture, the science behind it, this is only available in our course. You cannot get this if you just join EBT. And obviously you wouldn't get like the lifestyle medicine side of it. You wouldn't get our amazing coaching support and like all that stuff. So the big four circuits, food, mood, love, and body circuits, rewiring lighter circuits, rewiring deeper circuits, EBT in action. This is Laurel, so Dr. Mellon coaching me. These are my own circuits that I was like, oh, should I share these with my members? It feels pretty vulnerable. It was like, if you don't see me go deep, how can I expect you to go deep? I wanted to lead by example, so I put my own circuit discoveries in there. And then advanced EBT, and just a few more lessons there. So we take, a good 3 months to get through that and to learn it together, and it's really wonderful. So let's get back to the presentation here. If you have any questions about that, let me know. So the investment for our Zivley program is 12 monthly installments of $247. It's a really actually great deal. It's a steal, especially when you hear about some of the bonuses coming up. Or you can save if you pay with the one-time payment of $24.97. We do accept HSA, FSA, HRA cards. If you've purchased a product from us in the past, like Macros Made Simple or our old starter course or our insulin resistance blueprint, you can get a coupon code to put towards this purchase. Just email support@zivley.com and Kendra, our customer support manager, can email you that coupon code. And I've already emailed it to you, but sometimes they end up in the promotions folders and you might not have seen them. So bonus number one, we've never done this before, but we thought it was a really, really important thing to include, is 12 months of small group EBT coaching. Not months, 12 weeks of small group EBT coaching. So that's a $567 value. I did not include app access in that value. Okay, usually it's $189 a month. We're including 3 months free, plus 6 months access to the EBT Spiral Up app so that you can actually use the tools. It would be very silly of us to, say, hey, you need EBT and then not give you the tools, the emotional brain training tools to learn. That's a huge value add. We've never done that before. We're really, really excited to be able to offer that. So that would start during that second half. So months 4, 5, and 6, you're learning about EBT. You can come to a large group coaching call to get your questions answered, but then also you have a small group of like 4 to 5 other people and a coach facilitating those discussions, holding you accountable about whether you're on or off the EBT prescription, what's your amazing learning, what's your brain state, where are you on rewiring, and then that's a safe place to do the deep work. It's really a great setup. The next option, not option, but the next bonus is we are including 2 one-on-one coaching calls that you can use within your first 6 months. So we have a team of about 4 coaches for Zivley. We're all physical therapists, and you can use 1 call for strategy, 1 for mindset. That's another $300 value. So you're getting a ton of value. Like the course content in and of itself is worth the $24.97. Seriously. And then the coaching calls are above and beyond that. And then a limited time bonus that I'm really excited about is this EBT Holiday Stress Survival Kit. And it's a live training that I'm doing with members next week, but I would invite everybody who joins by Friday as well. Usually new members don't come to like those existing member calls because normally they have other stuff to focus on, but I'm going to invite you and send you the replay. You're going to learn how to use the Spiral Up Lite app. You're going to learn about the cycle tool, and you're going to learn about joy points. So essentially it's like a leg up on how do I self-regulate during this stressful holiday season. That's what we're talking about next week. Simple, easy tools. They're fun to use. You can use them with family members. It's a great topic of it's a great conversation starter too. So that's going to be next Wednesday from 11 to noon Central Time. So same time, but then you'll get the replay as well. So if you join by this Friday, you will be invited to that and get that replay. So the total value, if you add it all up, you have the lifestyle medicine course, $24.97, because of that additional EBT content, we did raise the price on that. 24 weeks, 6 months of live Q&A calls. That is weekly support and accountability with a community of like-minded people working towards the same goals. I could have valued that a lot higher. I did 2,400. 6 months of EBT app access, 174. 3 months of small group coaching, 567. 2 one-on-one calls, $300. That's over $6,000, and that does not even include everything that you're getting in the program. I was just like, that's enough for one slide. That's enough to prove the value of the program, but there is a lot more that you would get. The other thing that I wanted to highlight, because people love this, is our 2-for-1 offer for spouses or partners. So we don't do this for like friends or siblings, because I think in order to keep it fair, it's a shared bank account, which usually is, a spouse or a partner. So you do need to live at the same address. And how this works is one person joins. So you go to zivly.com/join to enroll. And then you just email Kendra at support@zivly.com and let us know the name, the email, and the physical address, just so we can kind of cross-check, of the person that you want to do the 2-for-1 offer. They get their own separate login into the course, because so often women are like, well, my husband really needs this, but he's kind of resistant when I tell him what to do, and he'll take it better if he hears it from you. And then I don't have to be the middleman trying to explain everything that I'm learning. So that's great. That's why we do the 2-for-1 offer. Um, Now, one caveat there is for the 2 one-on-one coaching calls, you would either need to split that time, or one does one does the other. Maybe your partner is not interested in that. Okay. So very important, 2-for-1. Take advantage of that. It's a good deal. This is Ron. Ron's here. Hi, Ron. I don't know if he's still here, but Ron was here. This is Ron and Kathy, his wife. They go to my church. Kathy said, I spent years of my adult years dieting on and off, usually following Weight Watchers or the occasional fad diet. I was successful at losing weight, but rarely kept it off because I didn't continue with it. I'd go back to my old eating habits. You guys, this was pre-EBT. These results too are pre-EBT. So our members like just love EBT so much, but this is an older testimonial. I've let go of the low fat, low calorie mindset. Now I eat high protein, low sugar meals, and I've lost nearly 30 pounds. My BMI is healthy. My labs have improved, and I'm off 3 medications. Look at this picture, Ron. He lost 40 pounds and reduced his blood pressure and cholesterol medications, which is really, really cool. So I love hearing stories like that. I did want to let you know we've added a lot. We've never run this as a 6-month program before. It's always been either 8 or 10 or 12 weeks. So we're having 12 more weeks of Q&A calls. We've also never included 3 months of small group EBT coaching with the offer. So our price will be increasing. So after this Friday at 6 p.m. Central Time, our price will increase. We have a certain number of people that we can let into each cohort to be sure that we have enough coaching capacity to meet the need. So if we need to open enrollment again at the end of the month to reach our capacity, or to offer people who maybe are like, hi, I didn't join then, but now I kind of regret it. It's kind of like if they have a fear of missing out, of FOMO, then they can join at the end of the month too, but at a higher price. So if you're serious and you think that this is a really good fit for you, do not procrastinate. That is just a wire. That's just a procrastination wire, and you can fix it. So enroll by this Friday. Again, that's 12/12 at 6 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to walk you through the process on how to join, and then I can help answer any questions. Okay. All right. So how you join, Kendra or Beth can drop this link down into the chat. You just go to zivly.com/join, and you can read through the page. It kind of just summarizes some, things about the program, some stuff you just learned. Click Join Zivly now. And then you can choose either 12 monthly installments or the one payment. You do save money with the low payment. Again, you can use your HSA and FSA cards. If you do that, just ask us for a letter of medical necessity, because your company might require that, and we can give you a template for your physician to fill out. Then you can click here, whichever one you want. So I'll just click the pay in full. And you fill out your information. If you have a coupon code from a previous purchase, you would put that in there. And you just say, I accept the terms and conditions of this The main thing in here to recognize is we don't offer a refund or anything like that. This is a commitment-based program. I think that you can tell I'm a person of integrity. I show up, my team shows up. We're going to meet you halfway. But in order to get the results, like if you think of it as a football, we're going to meet you right at center field. But we can't go onto your side. You have to also meet us at center field to get the results. So because we can't control what you do, we don't offer a refund because that would not be fair to the time and energy that we have put into investing in this, like literally the best program out there. It's just the most comprehensive, it's the best structured. It's the only like lifestyle medicine coaching program out there that offers EBT. I know because I'm friends with Dr. Mellon and I'm the only person that she's given permission to do this. So it's a very, very cool opportunity for you to get the best of both worlds. So once you join, then you're going to get this onboarding email. We really try to think through our customer experience and anticipate questions and answer them ahead of time. So definitely read through that onboarding email. If you're not very tech savvy, that's okay. Another thing that we're offering this time is like an onboarding call where we'll set up the tech for you or kind of walk you through exactly, okay, push here, push here, push here. That way you're not, relying on a spouse or a child to come over and help, download any apps or anything like that. So we're here to help you with the tech side as well. And let's see. I think that's pretty much it. We start January 7th. So again, enrollment in order to get that EBT Holiday Stress Survival Kit and lock in this low price, you need to join by Friday, 6 p.m. Central Time. All right. I want to just reach out. I would ask if Beth has anything that I missed, but I know that she is home with kids today because her mom was ill and not able to watch the kids. Yeah, thanks, Rhonda. Yeah, I don't know whose idea that was, but it wasn't mine. That was probably Beth or Lydia's idea for the tech support. Yeah, so someone asked you to teach using a CGM. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the Slack and just see if, Beth has collected any questions for me to answer. I think she's been doing a good job kind of answering them throughout. So, okay. Carolyn's here. Hi, Carolyn. I had you put in your 2 cents at the boot camp. Do you mind doing that again, or kind of maybe even just sharing feedback on like the 12-week worth versus the 6 month, kind of what we're offering there? What are your thoughts? Oh, yep, I know it. I know exactly what you're trying to tell me. Hmm, Let me do that. I gotta unmute her. I have to allow her to unmute herself. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, I really appreciate the idea of doing.
Oh, you muted yourself again.
I really appreciate the idea of doing the 6 months. That's a really good investment in self and also financially, for sure. And I just know that, I mean, I didn't need to go to the boot camp. I don't need to be here today, but oh my gosh, I just keep learning and learning. It's such a grace for me. And um, especially your words, your voice comes in my head a lot, Morgan. And one of the things I hear is eating for a higher purpose. And I have seen such tremendous grace come into my own heart because I really have believed that it's my fault. I'm morally just corrupt. I don't have the willpower. People keep telling me just do this. And I look forward to more and more unlocking the circuits, but even spending time doing the 10 spiral ups and the joy points daily, m- I just more is revealed every day, and it brings such a sense of peace. And I also I hear Laurel's voice also in my head. There's enough time because that whole be
Mhm.
perfect driver in me
I love
that
that.
it's too late, you're 65, your health is crappy, and you're just gonna die. And EBT helps me to calm myself down and allow myself to know that I continue to walk forward and I'm making good, loving decisions for myself. And that's what's helping me a lot with the food right now is knowing that that slowly but surely those circuits are being broken for me. So
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that experience. I'm glad you're excited about the 6 month idea. It's just been a common piece of feedback about just overwhelm, and so it's like, well, let's slow it down. And the nice thing too about a Zivley member is like Carolyn is a member and she has access for life. So she can do what we call reboots for free forever. So she can keep coming to the weekly coaching calls for inspiration and connection and all that good stuff. And we think that's important because it's kind of like reading a good book or watching a good movie. It's like you're going to get something new out of it every time. And I think that's a perfect thing when you're like, your voice is in my head or Laurel's voice is in my head. It's like you're borrowing our brain state. That's exactly what's happening. It's not live, but you're still doing that. So thanks for sharing that. And that means a lot to me. And I'm glad that you're happy with kind of that change that we've made to support members for a little bit longer and I mean, we support them for life, but just to give a little bit more TLC and support and slow things down for new members a little bit, I think is helpful.
just one more thing I was going to say is
Yeah.
working with the EBT, and that's helping me so much do such stronger work with the food issues and stuff.
Mm.
Um, Hearing myself say things that aren't my nature has been really a grace for me too. Responding to different situations where I can step back and say, okay, I need to take care of myself in this situation. And that's been a big thing for me too.
Yeah. I would love to hear just one more thing is, you know how we talk about like the strategy and the mindset? Can you kind of tell me your experience about how those play together? Like the lifestyle medicine course part of it versus like the EBT side of it. Like how do they play together for you?
That's really interesting. I was just talking to my husband about mindset. I've heard of mindset for years and years and different things I've joined. I really haven't had the internal tools to do mindset until EBT.
Mm.
And EBT allows me um, any time of the day. Um, in fact, last night I finished my spirals up and then something happened. I thought, "Ugh, I got to do another spiral up because I wanted to go to bed in joy. And so EBT is giving me those tools to help that mindset. And it actually has helped me a lot with our own personal faith formation that we do. I can read it with a joyful heart now and a joyful voice. And
Oh.
all those things have made a difference because I I mean, I was really touched. I was with a group of people and my one of my grandsons was there and his fiance said, "Well, we can go now." And he said, "No, I'm with grandma." And I was so esteemed because of the fact EBT has me in a place of joy and hope. And that just to give that to other people is so fun. So
Yeah, it is. It's like it's kind of impossible not to talk about it. It was impossible not to bring it into our program. Do you find that your behavior is changing naturally or not quite yet since we haven't done the deeper rewiring work?
no, it is absolutely changing.
Cool.
And it makes me cry to say it because I've fought the good fight for such a long time and I haven't got to the place where I spiral up every time I go eat, but I know that I can at least tell myself that now. So that's a big step for me. And it brings the joy for me just sitting down rather than because your words, are you eating for purpose? I'm like, all right, Morgan, you have a lot of meals with me.
I like that. Well, send me a, what is it, a joy burst? Every time you think of me, send me a little joy burst.
I will. I
Thanks.
will.
I want to talk to Alina too. Thank you, Carolyn. Alina said, I will continue. So she's another member. You guys, we do not plan members to come to these. Like they just like being here. And so that's why they're here.
That's
Um,
true.
yeah, yeah, thanks. So she said, Alina said, I will continue my commitment to Zivli, and it was not until EBT that 12 pounds melted in 2 weeks, which is absolutely crazy but true. Since then, 1 pound a week loss is what I have experienced. Until I identified the source, nothing worked. Huge. Alina, can you come on? Are you still here? Do you want to speak to that
I
at all?
I am. I'm just not fit to be seen, but
That's
hopefully my
fine.
words will resonate a little
Yeah.
bit. When I encountered EBT, I was a little skeptical because I don't like any artificial prompting to what I
Mm,
consider the core authentic connection I have with God. And initially, I felt like it was a little threat to my core belief system. However, I began to look at it as yet another tool, another brilliant tool that was used to get me back in connection. So my core belief says that the source of strength is joy. So joy is at the core of everything I do. And when I lose that joy, absolutely everything breaks. So I
mm,
allowed the tool to guide me back to core principles that I hold and believe from my truth source. And therefore, I was able to get back more intentionally to how I connected to God and then my family. So I would say, if you're in my camp, if you're like, no, I just need to read the Bible and pray, yes, but sometimes you have things that stand in the way and it becomes rote. And so this is a way to basically authentically get back to what you know. And without it, I don't know if you're over 50 like me, good luck. I don't think that you can psych out your hormones, but you can certainly get back to your created purpose, and that is to be the very best version of yourself. And I also got a part-time job doing what I love, which is I am a fashion stylist, helping women to basically be on the outside what they are on the inside. So we'll be talking
mm.
more again.
I was gonna say I could use that.
Well, maybe it's another piece of your puzzle there. Maybe it's
Yeah.
Zivli plus CBT plus fashion by design. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, but I'm in the program and I just want to encourage everyone. This was a huge, huge financial stress at the time because I was unemployed and it required my whole family to just believe that it was the right thing to do. And now I am committed to making that investment pay off. So
Yeah.
that's all.
I wanted to ask you too, you said just about the weight loss. Why do you think it was? Like you said, nothing worked until I really identified the source. What do you think, like what did you identify as the source that then allowed you to release that weight?
The source was that I didn't know that I was an undercover stoic, meaning I accepted suffering as a part or a course of life, that human suffering was somehow the normal state and that
Um,
aging was something I needed to accept. And therefore, being sort of an overcomer over the stress of aging and was
mm,
my stoic responsibility. The problem with that is that it created inauthenticity, which I discovered using the app. Actually,
oh,
as I was going through all the different steps, I thought, hmm, I keep knocking my head against this uh, this particular issue, which is, so it required me to do some more studying in the Bible, and I was able to find some very powerful proof texts that my mindset was wrong. So again, the tool led me to the source. The tool itself
yeah.
isn't the magic. The tool it itself is something very powerful to lead you back to truth. And when you get into your truth state, then you can begin to do the real work. So that's what happened to me. And I thought, no, no more stoicism. I need to be my joyful self and I need to find out what I am here to do, what my purpose is, how I'm supposed to pour out my love to others. And I literally got myself a part-time job at the bottom of the rung. And I help women every time I'm at work. And I just literally burst with joy. Now I have authentic joy. So this is
Mm,
my
I can
testimony.
hear that. I can hear that. Thank you so much for sharing. And
Thank
I
you.
really second what you say on I've been a person of faith like my whole life. This like Zivli is not necessarily like a Christian program. We have people who are Jewish. I think we probably have people who would identify as spiritual, but nothing else. And whatever that is for you, spirituality is that deep connection to like something more. And I really experienced that for myself too, that um things that I had just prayed about for a long time or like read Bible verses every day, like love is very patient, love is kind, love is slow to anger. And I'm like, why am I not being patient? Why am I not being kind? Why am I not slower to anger with my kids? And so really getting down to the mood circuits and the love circuits, I just felt like this is a gift from God. And I told Laurel that too. So 1 or 2 weeks into EBT training, you guys, by the way, I did EBT because Laurel, I call her Laurel, she did group coaching with our members while I was on maternity leave. And I saw the power of an EBT coaching session. And it was like, you couldn't get that in 6 months of talk therapy. It is so fast and effective. And I thought, I want to do that. I want to learn how to do that because I want to help people at that level. I love going deep. So I went into EBT to learn it to help people. But part of the process as an EBT provider is, of course, you have to do it. You have to experience the power. You have to rewire your own circuits. Otherwise, how can you lead where you're not willing to go? So I was very pleasantly surprised by the personal benefits that I got from it. And I emailed her right away and I said, Laurel, I know I've only like talked to you twice, but you're a deep person and I'm a deep person. And I think that we can communicate on this level. I think that this is a divine download. I think over the course of your 40 years and over all the research, I think that God has given you this idea of EBT and the power to refine it to help, you know, to help people to alleviate their suffering. She always says, you shouldn't have to tolerate a mediocre mood. I love when she says that. You don't need to tolerate a mediocre mood. And it's true. And we don't have to. And I've developed a very close, loving relationship with Laurel. And I think very highly of her. And I just think that she's really created a brilliant thing. And I'm really grateful that she's given me permission to bring it to our membership because honestly, it would break my heart if I could only teach it and not coach it and like not see the transformations that we get to see with our members. So I know that we are approaching 2 hours, which, if you know me, I could talk about EBT and listen to other people talk about EBT and talk about Zibly and talk about a low insulin lifestyle for pretty much ever. I wanted to just ask a couple more things. Any other questions from potential members or comments from existing members that you wanted to share? I will just open up the floor on comments from existing members about the power of Zivli or EBT or both, or questions from potential members. Oh, thank you. Yay! Good. So KLS said, I have been following Zibly for 2 years. I just joined. That's so wonderful. Welcome to our community. We are so I'm just thrilled to have you, especially since we've extended the program. We have small group coaching. We're going to get to know all of our members on an even more intimate level. Great. Okay. I don't see anyone. I see a few more members here. I don't see any hands up. Cheryl says, thank you so very much, Morgan and team. This was a wonderful webinar. Yeah, I hope everyone has a very beautiful and blessed Christmas season. You as well. Yep. So Michelle says, for those who are existing members and sign up for Reboot, does it include EBT? And if so, how much of it is included? So Michelle, the EBT module is already in the program. You can watch the EBT module. If you've filled out that new member feedback form, then you can have access to that right now. The small group coaching, just because of the price point that previous cohorts have joined at, is not included for the reboot, but you can join separate. So every 3 months, we're going to be offering small group enrollment for small group coaching for EBT. So that's how you can join a small group. Yeah, Deborah said, I just love how you're always adapting and evolving Zivly. Thank you. You're welcome. We really do care, and we want this to be the best program out there, like bar none. Roseanne, will we get an email about the EBT Christmas survival session? Yes. So it's actually, you know how we have our monthly mindset calls? So I didn't even say this either. Part of being an EBT member is you are invited to regular group coaching calls even after your new member phase is done. So you can sign up for the reboot or not. It's up to you. But twice a month, we host ongoing coaching calls. So I do a mindset call once a month, and then Beth or my team do a strategy call once a month. And our mindset coaching call next week is about the EBT survival stress kit. So that's what we're doing next week for the call. So yes, you will get an email just like you do every Wednesday morning. And again, this is ongoing for life. Like there's no annual subscription fee, there's no monthly subscription fee for those ongoing, like large group coaching calls. The only thing that is quote unquote extra is like for existing members, if they wanted to do the small group coaching, and new members, if you want to continue that small group coaching after your first 3 months. So I hope that I'm being clear about that. If I'm not, you can always email support@ziply.com for any follow-up questions. I just wanted to thank you guys just for your care and your attention and your heart. And it's been really, really fun for me to learn about this and share it with you. And I think it even more fun just to like get that back. You know, Laurel says one thing that she said that'll probably stick with me forever is she's like, at the end of my life, when I'm laying on my bed, I want to think about how many people did I help wire at one? Because then how many people can they help wire at one? How many people did I bring joy to? Because isn't that why we want health, is for more joy? It's like we need to do them both simultaneously. You do not have to wait. This is proof. What people have said today is proof that you don't have to wait to reach a certain weight or a certain health goal to experience the emotional effects you think that goal is going to bring you. That is just a number on the scale. Joy is internal and joy can be created now instantly. So I just, yeah, thank you so much for being here. This replay is going to go up this afternoon sometime. Share it with your family and friends. I just appreciate all of you, and I hope that you have a wonderful holiday season and Christmas if I don't get to see you next week in that call. Okay. Thanks, Alina. Bye, everybody.